We are back on our Ways and Means Committee meeting from this morning. And before we had a recess, we took the recess to have a lunch break, and we are back. So we will continue on with questions and answers. So the chair would like to start on with the SOF. Under the governor's revised budget communication, he had recommended to repeal 6 statutory earmarks. Question is, these 6 statutory earmarks, can you, just for the record, identify those earmarks, and are there still any balances or remaining funds on these 6 earmarks? If you can look at the screen, that's part of the communication from the governor. Those are the 6 earmarks that he's asking that we repeal.
So we just asked for the continued suspension of these earmarks that have been suspended annually. And so we just asked that it continue to be suspended, but like you requested, you want to know what would be the amount. Is that correct?
Right,
What's the
because
projection?
as we were reading the communication from the governor, he's recommending a permanent repeal out of the statutory laws of this earmark. So having to entertain the request of the governor, we would like, this body would like to know, are there any pending funds remaining under these 6 statutory earmarks, and having to permanently repeal it? Are we expecting in the near future more funds under these earmarks?
So what we can do is run a fund balance for all 6 earmarks to show what's the inception to date, how much has been set aside historically for the earmarks. And then, yes, we do anticipate funds that should go to these earmarks, but it's suspended because it's just a percentage based on the hotel occupancy tax, alcohol container tax, e-gaming, and those are all currently being collected. So we can do a forecast should these be unsuspended. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, partly, and more so on the call of repealing this earmarks. I think these earmarks, we are still going to be receiving a lot of earmarks on these 6 statutory earmarks. So the call to even repeal it, even asking the legislature to repeal it, we find it kind of confusing or troubling. Are we expecting no more funding for this 6 earmarks statutorily?
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, no, because they have been suspended every year, and I think it's better to just remove them from the earmarks used by the general fund. Any suspensions to this reverts back to the general fund to aid in the general fund operations.
Right, understood. But I guess maybe perhaps, I'm not going to speak for the rest of the members or even the Senate counterparts, but on a good economy, maybe perhaps these earmarks will be returning to its intent purposes by statute. I know that for the past probably more than 8 to 10 years, the legislature has been suspending it to assist the administration in diverting these funds to catering to more priorities within the budget. But just the call actually to just repeal it permanently is, I'm not too sure if that's the position of the legislature as a whole, but We now get it that I guess it's because of the repeated suspension and the legislature honoring that suspension on the past years of budget deliberation. So, thank you for that response.
And if I may add just one more thing, so items 3, 4, 5, and 6 could be something that could support future term pension program.
That could be one great idea in the near future in a good economy. That's correct. And so, which leads me to my next question, and before I open up to the other members, I know that further the governor had also, on his communication on the revised budget, encourages or recommends each senatorial district to divert local revenues to sustain and support operations of their respective municipalities. I think the call, I'm not too sure if the other senatorial district have the necessary local funds to support their operation. So I guess my question is, if we can break it down for the first and second senatorial, how much would it take the local funds to support their operation? I know that in the third senatorial district, we have perhaps a greater local funding from the local industries here that could maybe perhaps support the third senatorial district. But for the matter of the first and second senatorial district, we wanted to, just based on the request of through the governor's communication, calling for all senatorial district to support their municipality operation. Do we have that breakdown for the operation for each senatorial district?
We don't, but we could put that together for the House and the Senate if it's requested upon.
Okay, let that be an official request by this August body. Okay, the chair will now yield for now and open up for members of the committee if you have any further question, and if we can try to finish all the questions for Madam's SOF, if possible. Thank you. I recognize Madam Floor Leader.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Madam Secretary, I don't know if, I know you're not feeling well, and I know that you're going to be excused soon enough. If this question doesn't pertain to you and you need to exit soon, then go ahead and just state that, okay? So in scenario 1, it cuts the GLI retirees by 4.1 million proportionately. Is that correct?
Yes, 4.13
Okay.
million.
And GHLI is a constitutional obligation. Is that correct?
I believe it's statutory.
Statutory, okay. Has the Attorney General reviewed whether a proportionate reduction to this benefit program is legally permissible? Does the AG know that this is being proposed?
No, we did not consult with the Attorney General's office. I mean, we've done it before. Not include the full amount in the budget, and that's why we always come back to the legislature requesting or informing them where this could be funded from, which sources of funding or which pot of money.
Okay, so the Office of Management and Budget is basically authorizing this budget path without consulting with the AG. Is that right?
I don't believe it's necessary for us to go to the AG's office.
Okay, all right. And I'm just asking, and I think, Rep. Carey, if you can note that, and then we can go back to that later, and we'll have that discussion at a later time, maybe when these guys leave. So also in scenario 1, it aims to cut $340,000 and change. Medicaid carries a federal matching, is that right?
It does.
has the Department of Finance verified that a proportionate reduction to the Medicaid appropriation will or will not trigger a loss of federal matching funds?
We already do in the current budget that's available.
Okay.
We are not able to maximize the full grant award because we don't have the match to maximize it. So yes, you're right. The lower that we go with our match, the less federal funds we take advantage of.
And what does that impact? How does that impact? Because you mentioned something earlier about the community and the importance of all of us working collaboratively to ensure that the public is protected, the health care of our public is protected. Medicaid system is part of that efficiency component. What are the consequences to that?
I think the best entity to answer that is Medicaid. However, in our
Okay.
past discussions, they did inform us that
Okay.
any budget reduction in the matching,
Okay.
other than the full amount, they would have to go back to their state plan and
Okay.
identify services that will have to be cut. Maybe that's dental, maybe that's certain preventive procedures, things like that. It's starting to pick and choose the certain services that will be covered that are the most utilized by the population. And so we're gonna start to see that impact not just on the people that are covered by Medicaid, but also at the hospital.
Okay, so with that said, Madam Secretary, will you be meeting with the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation and Medicaid together to discuss that? To discuss that, yes or no? Probably, no?
Yeah, we're always in
Okay.
discussion. We were in discussion yesterday regarding the state plan and avenues that CHCC has identified to increase their funding from Medicaid. And so they're doing a great job, both Medicaid and CHCC, in trying to identify resources.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think that's a great discussion to be had
Okay,
with them.
thank you, and please keep that in the back burner for a discussion. Insurance is very important, and there are a lot, I believe there's about 47% of our population that are qualified for Medicaid, and we have our chairman for health and welfare also to take note. And so my second question is, because there are indirect costs associated with a lot of our federal grants, are there any indirect costs applied to the Medicaid office? Or taken from?
I believe they should be applied to Medicaid for those allowable
Okay,
costs, yeah.
all right. And so how much indirect costs was applied or received through the grants management office to the governor's office or to the executive branch in totality?
I know we can run a YTD report, that's a
Yeah.
year-to-date report of
Okay.
all the budget that has been, or revenues that were received and budgeted and allocated to OGM. We
Okay.
can provide that.
Okay. I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, you're gonna be giving us that information? Okay, thank you. And please, I'm not sure if the chairman's supposed to direct me to stop because you're not feeling well, so I'm not sure how this is supposed to go. I'm trying to be the good guy here today. So you can stop me anytime. Chairman, and also when you're ready for me to stop, then let me know. So are any of the indirect costs applied to, and can they be applied to utilities for government expenses?
Yes, absolutely.
And how much of the indirect cost is being applied to pay for the utilities of the government?
None.
And how much indirect cost, because you're saying it's a year, so let's go back last year. How much indirect cost did the executive branch receive in indirect costs?
Again, we can get that. It's
Okay.
the same report that you're
Okay.
asking for the
Okay.
total collections. And I'd like to clarify
Sure.
that the IDC that I'm assuming you're referring to is the IDC that's allocated to the Office of Grants Management.
Yes.
They only get a percentage of the
Okay.
IDC, so the remaining amount could be 63, 64%,
Okay.
goes to the general fund and then
Okay.
is allocated through the budget process. So if we had allocated utilities in the budget, part of those funds may come from the general fund portion of IDC.
And so when the governor makes a payment on behalf of CHCC, which he's done historically, almost every governor has brought in the CHCC and handed over a check to the corporation to pay for their utility bills. Does that come out of the indirect costs
I'm
of
not
the general
sure.
fund?
I would need more information on that transaction. I'm not
Okay.
aware right now.
So we know that there was a check presented, and the reason why I'm asking is because I want to know where this money's coming from. And if it's coming from the general funds, that means we're taking from somewhere to pay an expense or an obligation to CUC from CHCC based on their memorandum of understanding, correct? Okay, so that's why I'm asking. And if you could give me some explanation on that report, I'd really appreciate that.
So, Rep. Flores,
Uh-huh.
what you're asking about is the facilitation of funding to CHCC through their reimbursement of Medicaid. So, CHCC is entitled to two types of funding. One is the CPE, that's a certified public expenditure, and the other one is non-CPE, which is like a regular grant reimbursement process through Medicaid.
Okay,
So when we were deliberating the agreement with CUC, the executive branch had offered to facilitate through Medicaid to
Okay.
ensure that they process on time CHCC's rightful reimbursement so that they can pay their bills on time.
Okay.
So it was more of a facilitation.
Okay. That's okay, you don't have to get into it. I mean, like, again, Rep. Omar is here, who is the chairman. If there's any more clarifying questions between that transaction or how that was facilitated, we'll go ahead and ask him. I'll just try to keep it strictly to the budget as directed by the chairman. I know our time is limited with you because you're not feeling well, and I can empathize with that. I want to go back. Oh, actually, never mind. I think I'll save this for OMB. So, I'm going to ask this. This is toward the judiciary. Does the judiciary, this is taxpayer under the general fund, pay for any leased vehicles within the judiciary branch? And is it included in this budget?
If it's purchased under the general fund, and if it's purchased locally, then there's the BGR that the auto dealership pay into the CNMI general fund as a BGR tax. But if it's federal funds, it all depends whether it's coming from the GSA purchase. When it comes into the Commonwealth, is there? I'm not sure. I think there is still a tax that's added on to as equipment that's coming into the Commonwealth.
So it's charged under their equipment budget
Well,
line item.
vehicle is considered an equipment.
Okay, so in the judiciary's budget requests, under equipment, are there any expenses for vehicles any expenditures to vehicles? Yes or no?
Can we provide that data later on?
Sure.
I mean, we need to run the report.
Okay, and, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Vicky, and yes, I would really appreciate that because I know that there might be several places where there's gonna be some expenses like the marshal, like probation. But what I'm trying to get at is, are any of the sitting judges, are there any expenses of any rental on their leased vehicles? That's number one. And is it being charged to the coffer under the general fund?
So I'll just share with you what I know
Okay.
in the past, you know,
Okay.
being in government for
Sure.
this long. At the end of the year, there's, and I don't know if it's still done today,
Okay.
but at the end of the year, there's a questionnaire that goes out to each department
Okay.
or programs and inquire whether there was a vehicle that was provided to that particular employee, and for how long was that vehicle used by that employee, and it's then converted into like a personal income where it should be taxed.
Right, right. Okay. And that's why I'm asking. And we just, and again, there's so many things happening structurally that we've been doing systemically over the years that might not make sense now. And if we can help design this budget to where it is balanced, that would really help us. And if we can cut somewhere to save work, better for us. So my next question, I guess, Ms. Vicky, is there was a balance on the Justice Fund. I think it was last year in about $2 million. Is that still the balance this year? Because I believe that they were advocating to keep the Justice Fund for some maintenance. And I want to know, there was a significant drop within the Justice Fund. Is that correct? It's not 2 million anymore, is it? And it's reflective on this budget, I believe.
I would have to run the report on that to provide you
Okay.
the.
Yes, please. And I think if you can, because if they're requesting 13 million to continue with their services, we also need to figure out within DPS and other entities that are tailored towards enforcement, how they can all work together and share these expenses or share these services for efficient government. If you can provide the chairman with a certified fund balance, and to include in the fund balance expenses from the Justice Fund. Thank you. And I yield my time, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Floor. Can I ask the question on the total, how many total legal holidays are we expecting for this upcoming fiscal 2027?
Mr. Chairman, I just looked at the holiday schedule, and I know that there was one holiday that was not included for FY 2026. And I know that that is November 3rd, Election Day. So there's one holiday, but the total I believe is 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so we're in the range of like about 14, 15.
Between 14 to 15.
Right, and can we calculate how much would it cost us should the legislature ventures into unpaid holidays just to kind of mitigate a little bit of the challenges and burden of this upcoming deliberation? Is that something that you guys can do a breakdown on how much it would? I don't want to say the word safe, but maybe we can divert that as a result of unpaid and kind of try to alleviate or increase the hours or whatnot. I know that in the past deliberation, both legislatures have always been venturing into that kind of scenario, and we just wanted to have a like kind of figure of how much would that be for the entire.
Do you
employees.
want it calculated for all holidays, or use the same methodology that was used by the legislature on prior budgets? Not all holidays were included.
Yeah,
Certain holidays.
yeah, certain holidays, but maybe if you can give us the breakdown of the whole entire holidays, and then maybe the both houses would kind of decide on how we will go about on that endeavor. And then also I understand that the administration, together with the Madame SOF, have been having numerous meetings with with the Civil Service Commission, maybe perhaps for the past few months. And I know that the communication from the administration to the legislature spoke about furloughs and reefs, and I think it's very important to kind of understand where you guys at there, because if there is no guidelines as of now, I think I will indulge with my members of the Ways and Means. I think it's important to call them in as well, as a body here, Ways and Means, to kind of figure out, because without those guidelines, I don't think we can even implement any furloughs or reefs. So we want to have that mutual unified position on how we are going to go about in the event we have no choice but to go about furloughs and reefs. So maybe there's no, are you guys expecting any further meetings moving forward or whatnot with them? Any updates?
Right now, we're waiting on the introduction of their proposed emergency regulation. I do know that in our multiple meetings with the board or the commission, we did stress to them that we understand there are current regulations we can use, but the current regulations in its current form will take months to implement, and we don't have that time. And that was what we stressed to them, is that emergency regulations are needed because we have an October 1st beginning of the fiscal year. And so they took that. We're grateful for the work that they put in. What we did ask is for strategic furlough. As a department head, I gave them examples of if I were to implement the current furlough process as it is, I'm going to lose a lot of staff that actually run the department. And that would be detrimental to our operation. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of line departments and other agencies. So they were very considerate of that. I do understand their draft has some procedures or standard SOPs that they developed that allows for strategic selection based on critical services that need to be preserved. But we don't know what the final draft looks like, but I anticipate that they are trying to formulate a fair process, which we agree with, but we also asked for some flexibility in being strategic in the furloughs, and we're just waiting for that right now. Once it's passed, I believe it's 10 days to be adopted, and then the next step is to provide the departments and agencies the SOP that was developed by the commission so we can start planning ahead of October 1st as a department.
Okay.
We have to take that division by division and start planning or how many first, right, based on our budget. How many do I need to furlough? And the second question is who? And that is, number one is determined by the budget, and who is determined by the commission's SOP.
Right.
So that's why we're not able to give you exactly how many people will be furloughed, because it all depends on the implementation of that SOP.
Right.
So,
And do you guys have a kind of sense of where, I know that Ms. V spoke about there's just too many administrative positions, right? That perhaps maybe we can fairly say at this economic situation we have not really needed at this point of time. So is there a kind of a sense of a way to implement this furlough? And I know that maybe perhaps from now moving forward, or even after we pass the 2027 budget, whatever the bi-weekly hour is, I'm sure that even now as we speak, before we even implement it, we have a lot of employees within our government, even semi-autonomous or fully autonomous, that are leaving the Commonwealth and for better pastures, if you may say. But when our people are resigning, I wanted to make sure that the administration is not like immediately trying to reoccupy and look at that as a way of right-sizing the government, instead of immediately trying to and look at it at a very strategic way, as you mentioned right earlier. on how we can really tackle this and kind of really, in all seriousness, right-size the central government. Art, on a follow-up question, I recognize
Yes.
Madam Floor Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. And follow-up question, and I think we all agree that government is about function, and efficiency and service. So in Tier 2, and this is again going back to these furloughs, in Tier 2, there's $0 to Tier 4. Is that right? Where's Tier 4? Based on Miss Jazz's
Yes.
presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do any of them carry federal contracts?
I would have to look at it, but
Okay.
it took me a
Right.
while to like respond back to you. But there are folks within this program that can be migrated over to programs.
Got you. And lease obligation and grants, they have something tied to them, right? Even in performance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would any of them, when you migrate over or you try to consolidate to improve functionality and efficiency, do you see any of this action triggering any penalties or loss of federal funds?
Actually, it would be a loss to programs that are to be executed based on why that program existed in the first place. But when there is a program that is allocated to the Commonwealth or granted to the Commonwealth, you cannot just run that program without the people that needs to push out, do the outreach or execute the implementation of what the program calls for. So it would increase the program, services out there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vicky. And so I guess a safe question would be that the entire CNMI government relies on federal grants. Is that a correct assumption?
Not all programs have federal grants.
Okay, all right. So we were talking about, and the chairman was talking about this design that is being now proposed under your scenarios. Scenario 2 delivers a 64-hour baseline with furloughs expected, which was said. Under scenario 1, however, workers are at 40 hours with no furlough. Workers take home less under scenario 2 than under scenario 1. If the stated advantage of scenario 2 is protecting critical programs, what is the plan to restore work hours once those critical programs are stabilized?
To be able to restore those programs, we need additional revenues in the first place. We need new revenues coming in to be able to support government operations if we were to keep everybody at 100%.
Got you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Vicky. And so earlier we spoke about these contracts, and we know civil service is a special group that falls under this special category. But you mentioned earlier that you have an ESA, ESL, ESTO, and then you mentioned something about accepted service with unique specialties or special qualifications. Based on the conversation and the questions that the chairman asked you, I'm sure that the database that you guys have and collect, and with your collaborative partnership with OPM, I would like to see all of these categories broken down in number by agency. Is that possible? And department.
Everything is possible.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so are you saying that you are able to furnish that request based on the government's employee personnel structure of civil service. Let's just take away civil service because that's special. But you have accepted service, one. You have ESA, and what is ESA again?
Accepted service appointments.
Okay. And then you have ESL, what is that?
It's limited term.
Limited term. And then you have ESTO.
It's ESCO.
Oh, CO.
Honestly, I would have to like go back to OPM and ask what it
Okay.
is, because that's how it is in the employee master. It's just labeled as ESCO.
All right. And I guess if you can have Mr. Pangilinan break that down, because you're showing on ESA 353, ESL 552, and ECTO as 30, right? That was on our earlier conversation. And then civil service, I believe, is like 2,000 and some. Is that right?
There's 11 different personal status categories. So if I may just
Okay.
say it.
Sure.
Acting ship, appointed,
Okay.
elected, ESA, ESECL, ESECO, limited term, probationary appointment, provisional appointment, permanent, and temporary.
Jeez. Okay. I'm assuming that that was all created under Executive Order 94.3.
It's by regulation.
By 94.3 because we were doing fine. And again, right, this is just for historical conversation. When the economic boom was happening for the Commonwealth, 94.3 was created, therefore taking and moving and creating a bigger government because the BGRs and the revenue and the economy could support that. And we're still operating under that same structure, which is giving us the problem now, because how do we protect all these people under a structure that was implemented since 1994 and we have not adapted to change unless the economy crashes like today? And so that's the problem we're having, is the government is the biggest employer for the CNMI. And it's just harder now for us to support all of this. But we're trying. We're going to help. We're going to figure this out. But Miss Vicky, would it help then if we take a look and bring in Mr. Pangilinan and look at all of the wonderful job vacancies that he has, because I think it's like maybe 80 pages, and maybe streamline from there and start taking out stuff we don't need so that it could match what it is that you're asking. Is that something that we can do?
I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
Because we need the guidance to
Okay.
put in place.
Okay. Yeah, because the last I checked, there was something about, I don't know, I've never heard of this position. I can't find it on my email, but I know that I was given the list of government job vacancies and requirements, but that has not changed since 94. That is 80, at least 50 to 80 pages. And when someone comes in based on the need, it can fit. But is it really an essential job, right? Can someone else do that? And we can take this particular funds from the federal and give someone the raise or some kind of incentive, as opposed to creating a new job that we can't even support it next year. So are you recommending, Ms. Vicky, that we bring in Mr. Pangilinan to go over, at least send a letter from this committee of all of the job vacancies or job descriptions or that he has on file, so that we can start eliminating jobs that we don't need based on the economic crisis that we're in?
I will yield to the committee
Okay.
to make that decision whether it's needed or not. They're needed.
Then I'll yield to my chairman.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was alluding and asking that question. We might be needing to meet with the civil service and to include also Mr. Joe Panglinan from OPM to get more of clarity on how we should be going about or with the guidelines with regards to furlough and reef. But let me redirect to the SOF. I have two more questions for you before we excuse you, and maybe your two staff can sit in for you for the remainder of this today's proceeding. So first question would be, what is the status of our single audits right now with your office? I know that you guys have been focusing so much of you guys' time for the past few months. We see some audits from 2024, 2025 that are just recently out, and what's pending, and can you give us an updates on those?
Yes, we just completed the FY23 audit, and that was towards the end of July. And now we are in August and already jumping into FY24 audit. We anticipate completion by October, the end of October, if nothing changes the schedule, like another disaster. But we're crossing our fingers that we're able to stick to our schedule. Right now, the auditors are already in their testing phase, and so it's going to take a lot of heavy lifting from all the major programs to stay on the ground and provide the auditors their requests, at the same time managing their regular operations. And then when we complete FY24 in October, we will then jump right into FY25.
25, right.
And our target completion date is January, so that hopefully, crossing our fingers again, by the time June 30, 2027 comes around, we're going to be on time.
Okay, so with the pending 2024 and 2025, we don't experience as of today or currently any impacts with federal awards coming our way. You don't foresee?
What we've been experiencing is heightened restrictions and threats of termination.
Okay.
However, we have our team assigned for grantor communication to explain to them exactly where we're at in the catch-up process, and it seems like that's a good strategy. It's been accepted for many of our grantors. As long as there's communication on where we're at in this milestone schedule,
Right.
They really accept that, and they see that we're battling, the back-to-back disasters, our economic uncertainty, and so they've been, for the most part that I've been aware of, very understanding as long as we stick to the schedule.
Right, and you're still getting that assistance from the Office of OIA
Yes.
with regards to this single audits. Okay, that's nice to hear. Thank you for the response. And my last question for you would be I know that we went through the current budget that we are currently going through to the end of September 29. I know part of the discussion early on before we passed last year's October 1st budget, there was funding that supposedly will be reimbursed by MPOT, those fundings from OIA that were dedicated for the retirees. That reimbursement, I think it's in a tune of somewhere 3.6, 3.7. Have you guys already gotten that reimbursement or and where did that money go if you guys already received that reimbursement?
MPLT, I'm not sure where, I'm not aware of any reimbursement from MPLT.
So on the first quarter, there was OIA funds that were derived from OIA to take care of the retirees, right? And then we consummated the 29 million MPLT loan. So there was somewhere in the tune of 3.6 or 3.7 that supposedly will be reimbursed to the central government. I think we have discussed that last year thoroughly.
Just to clarify on the record, OIA provided funding for the 25%. Is that what you're alluding to?
Right. So those reimbursements, right, because of the, not, I think there was funding that was used on OIA that was used for the MPLT, perhaps it probably be the 75%, right? And this was in the first quarter, so we were expecting a reimbursement because we have consummated the 29 million. So that reimbursement that I'm alluding to, I was just trying to check if you guys received those reimbursements or you guys redirect those funds to other.
So I just want to clarify that what you're referring to is not MPLT and is not OIA. That's the NMI settlement fund.
Okay,
Is
so,
that the one that you're
right.
talking about? Okay.
So,
So because of the MPLT loan that was directly distributed to the settlement fund that covered every payment from the beginning of the fiscal year to the end, the entire amount of 29 million, the amount that we had already remitted to the
Right.
settlement fund
That's
for
the
the
one.
first quarter is reimbursable back to the general fund,
Right.
right? And because that money that was paid in the first quarter was general fund collections, that reimbursement shall go back to appropriated expenditures in the current budget. So the 25% that was appropriated in the current budget is considered a general fund expenditure. So that general fund revenue that was supposed to be reimbursed back to us, and then finance can then decide what obligations do we need to pay. Is this reimbursement gonna go towards the Medicaid local match? Is it gonna go towards payroll? Is it gonna go towards the 25%? We had made, or I had made the decision to use those funds directly for the 25% general fund appropriation. So I had instructed Ms. Tang that rather than returning it back to us, where then we're gonna return it back to them to pay for the 25%, just keep the cash with them and keep applying how much is needed for the 25% general fund expenditure
Okay.
until those funds are used up. And so that was the best way that we both saw administratively to reduce the burden on both of our offices, and that it's still considered a general fund appropriation. So whenever we use that reimbursement, the certification of funds to the settlement fund indicates the general fund account.
okay.
Yeah.
So, can we fairly say that we don't have to worry for the 25% to all the way to the end of this fiscal year?
I believe
I know
there
that
is
we,
still a shortfall
Governor
for the
just signed 2.1, right, from the
Public Law 24-34.
34, right? But we're still a shortfall of a little bit,
Yes,
downwards of 1 million, maybe probably 900 some.
yes,
Are
correct.
you saying that those money that you have directed, Ms. Tang, would cover that for the end of the?
No, it has already been expended.
It's already been expended.
Yes.
So we still, the administration is still looking for the remaining,
Correct.
for the remainder of the, till the end of September.
Out of the 2.1, only 1.6 was appropriated for the 25%. The remaining amount went to PSS.
Went to PSS, that's
Yes.
correct.
The amount that we needed was 2.6, but we only got 1.6 in
Right.
Public Law 24-34.
Okay.
So, again, because there has been a proportionate reduction in the current budget, the budget available to the 25% has also been reduced. So again, we need additional budget authority.
All right. Thank you for that response. So maybe perhaps we'll be expecting some kind of communication from the administration calling that there is a need to find some funding to make the retirees whole for the remainder of this fiscal year. That's correct, huh? All right. So if there's no more questions for Madam SOF, we still have her team here with us. Madam Secretary, you are excused now. If there is a need for this August body to call both you and Ms. V and your team, we will do so as we continue on deliberation of this upcoming fiscal year budget. So with that, you're excused. And Sarge, can you escort please the staff of SOF up to the center of? Are there any further questions for OMB members? Madam Floor Leader, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. So, Miss Vicky, one of the biggest things that I've always been advocating for is enforcement. Whether it be public safety, agencies that are collecting fines and fees. I mean, that is one of my biggest pet peeve. And I think that it's remains the same. Um, Public school system, those are that's our constitutional obligation, is to pass the budget, but to protect the health and welfare, public safety, and education of the people of the Commonwealth. And I take that very seriously. So, in terms of public safety, I know that there has been an exodus and they had lost some people. Has the department met with you recently in regard to this civil service and all of this accepted service categories? Because I understand that they're all civil service. I understand this part, and they're all admin assistant, police officer. But when you look at their schedule, they're police officer. But if you look at OPM, they're police officer admin. I'm not sure why that is, but have they taken the time? I know that they're short staff. I mean, admin. No, we'll just say it like that. Have they met with you to figure out a way to best address the current situation at the department?
They have not.
Okay.
They have not.
Okay, so we can say that a structural change in their personnel description could improve the standard and the morale at the department. Is that right?
If it would make the department more efficient and be able to provide the public safety services, then yes. But like if they're police officer 2/admin, then they're subject to austerity.
And that's one of the problems that we're receiving right now, right? Is that they're either or, and it becomes discretionary of either a commissioner or their director to figure out whether or not they're essential or non-essential. Is that right?
It's, I believe, the directive 2025-008 or 8A or 2026-009. Those are spelled out there. So like if you are, police officer, but you're assigned to an admin, then, you're subject to austerity.
Okay, so can I ask for your assistance then? Because public safety is one of our constitutional mandates, and I'm sure it's important to your office as well as all of the other offices and the entire community as a whole when you're talking about public safety. Can you take a look, please, at their personnel structure? And if there's any changes that need to be made, I am in full support of supporting public safety because it's my constitutional duty. But maybe they need some assistance from you to categorize them appropriately in the budget. Is that possible?
Wouldn't that be a reference to the Civil Service Commission, OPM, because they do the classification for each of the positions that are within government, not the Office of Management and Budget?
Okay, so since you guys are in deliberation with the civil service, because you have now designed tiers 1 and 2 that will involve civil service, can you make it, I guess, your civic duty as an OMB to mention to the Civil Service Commission to take a look at that and possibly change that?
We could.
Okay. I think that would be great because they're short about $9 million. And every time we have, let's just say like the last typhoon, mass exodus of personnel. We're at risk of public safety, community safety, and other things, right? Okay, so I guess I'll just touch back with you maybe next week and see if that at least an email was there so that we can figure out how to restructure them. And moving forward in terms of typhoon, and we're expecting another 3, I think it would be beneficial to start transitioning them to essential service and not something that needs to be determined by the civil service. I think it's just an error, and I think they just need to remove that admin component and just leave them all as police officers. Because admin they're not autonomous, so Secretary of Finance still receives all of their payables and receivables, is that right? They do their in-house management of funds?
Everything as far as obligation and expenditure of funds has to go through the Department of Finance.
Okay,
That's the
so,
gateway.
right. Okay, so then there's probably a director of fiscal management at DPS. That's admin, right? Maybe the commissioner has an admin. Maybe they have like 4 admins to do their timekeeping. I don't know. But take a look at that structure, because if you can use these individuals on heavy admin like DPS, then they could also be transferred over to actually help enforcement. And that comes to my second question. During the time when the late Governor Palacios was alive, he had created the task force. And at that time, I believe, for collections enforcement, there was about, 17, if I'm not mistaken? Or was there less than 17 people on the task force for collections at Department of Finance? Do you remember?
I recall that there was that task force,
Okay.
and I believe that task force still exists.
Okay, and how many people are on that task force now? Do you know?
I don't have that number now.
So is it active or inactive?
That would be a question to the Secretary of
All right.
Finance.
So can you take note of that? And then my follow-up to that is, at one point, when the late governor had established this task force, there was a media source that they actually collected within 1 quarter, roughly between 10 to 20 million dollars. And I believe that was less than 20 people on the task force. So I'd like to know how many people you have on your task force, because if that's the case, I'd rather move people to enforcement and not furlough anybody for admin and start training people to do enforcement. Because I can tell you, BECQ needs help in enforcement, Rev and Tax needs help in enforcement, maybe just for the hot by itself, okay? Your, what else, zoning might need enforcement. Restructure all these people because they're gonna be essential. Right now, we need collection. And until such time we find another industry outside of tourism, the responsibility is going to fall on us. And how do we do that? We got to collect. The courts are doing their job by adjudicating civil cases that are filed against by the Attorney General. So they're doing their job. We have HOT, we have blighted property, we have, what else do we have out there that they can go and collect? We can't count DPL because they're, I think, semi-autonomous, if I'm not mistaken. But revenue and tax alone right now should be the enforcement leg. And I'd like to know how many active people you have on this task force, because if I have to compare how many admin assistants are willing to furlough, if there was only 10 the last time, can you imagine how much we collect in 1 quarter if we can put 50 people out there? For one of these categories, temporary, and it can pay for itself. But I don't think that the way this is designed is working right now. But if we can get the revenue, because there's a lot of places where they can cite, it would be perfect to help. But right now, there's, with planes and all this tourism stuff that's affecting parts of the world, not just us. We need to put money in enforcement so that we can also give every other obligation we have. And that's a statement, that's not even a question, it's rhetorical. So please, I would like to have that question or that request to the Secretary of Finance, focusing on the task force that the late Governor Arnold Palacios had created, and then the history of how much was created and how many people was on that task force, and their duties and responsibilities. So, Ms. V, I guess because you're OMB, what questions can I ask you because Secretary of Finance is not here?
You can ask all the questions you want, and I will try my very
Okay.
best to answer.
All right, thank you, Ms. V. That works for me. There is, I did not see what the executive branch, okay, sorry. We left dollar amounts on the last budget or this current budget for job vacancies. And I think that was 346 if I'm not mistaken, or 300 some. Have those all been zeroed out in this proposed budget?
We removed all the vacancies.
Okay, including the
Ex-
executive branch, the governor and lieutenant governor's office, special accounts?
Everybody except I believe that there's directors, there's a director position that remained in the budget. It's vacant right now.
And that would be paid
That
for?
would that's ahead of the department, so that person has to be.
Okay, yes, 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 I understand. And that will be paid for under the executive branch, governor's office?
It would be within the executive branch, but not within the office of the governor.
Okay, all right. So for the record, everyone has been zeroed out. There is no more JVAs unless we make the change with OPM and start narrowing down and closing out what we need and what is not needed. And just specifically design right now in this budget what is essential and what is crucial. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I yield my time.
Thank you, Flor. With regards to, this is directly to the folks from SOF. Do you guys have any figures on how much was collected, if there is, as a result of the 3% construction tax that was amended and signed into law? And if there is none to this day, are we waiting for regulations to be promulgated, or where are we at with the construction at 3% tax?
Good afternoon, Chairman. So based on our June report, our cumulative revenue related to construction tax is 267,000. Yeah.
267,000,
Yes.
and that's as of today.
That's as of June 30, 2026.
Okay. So we are, as we speak, we are fairly assessing this mandated by law 3% tax. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this 263K, was it embedded in this 2027 budget? Or was it factored in?
Yes. It's we forecasted 676,311.
For this upcoming budget?
Yes, FY27
Okay.
revised.
Okay, thank you for that response. And then my next question would be with regards to the entire Commonwealth revolving accounts. If combining all the revolving accounts, are you guys able to forecast that in totality? all revolving funds? Can that be a official request by this August body?
Yes, we can prepare the report.
Okay. All right. Okay, members, are there any further questions? Madam Flor?
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. V, zoning is another enforcement leg, and I know that they have a account with some funds in it. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did they use that fund for?
They use it for, some of it is used for personnel. The rest are for their day-to-day operations.
So it's not supported at all under this general fund?
They are part of the general fund.
Like what percentage? What does the general fund pay for if they already have their own special account?
So for the July 1st submission, there's 124,000 that allocates for the zoning. So it's probably just two eight or two personnel.
Two NOPs?
Two personnel,
Okay.
yes.
But they can easily use their special funds to pay for that, is that right?
They can.
Okay, wonderful. We'll take note of that, because there's a substantial amount of money sitting in there, and I don't know what it's for. Does that account then, is it sitting in a bank that's earning interest? That's liquid cash.
That would be a question to the Secretary of Finance.
Okay, can you put that as one of the requests that we'd like to see? Can you take me back to, I'm sorry, okay, never mind. How much in, oh man. Okay, I'm gonna ask Ms. Fee. How much in, gaming jackpot tax? You show here as of July 1st, 2026, as a revenue source, income tax, gaming jackpot tax at 691, 263, is that right? Do you have that? July 1st, Department of Finance, Attachment A, revised revenue estimates?
Pam?
Yes.
Okay. That looks like the same as last year, or not a big difference from last year, is that right? Okay. Well, you can get back to me later. So again, let's go back to this. Penalties, interest, delinquent taxes. Are you guys openly and actively collecting on these things? Because these are revenue estimates.
Yes, I believe our DRT division is collecting for
Okay, so we should see an uptick.
yes, if we receive payments related to those categories.
So who's in charge of collecting? Do you guys just send letters out to collect? Or does someone go physically over there to collect?
I'm not aware for the full process because it was handled by the DRT division.
Okay. Can you let us know? Thank you. And then on the licenses and fees, you have non-gambling machines. What is that?
I believe the non-gambling machines are probably what we refer to as amusement, meaning like, for example, like billiards or something like that.
Jukebox.
Yeah. Or,
And I
yeah.
noticed that there's a dash there. Does that mean you guys don't license? They don't pay fees for that?
No, I don't think so.
There's no money figure, or is it put somewhere else? Because I see a lot of dart machines out there. There's a lot of, and pool tables. I see people don't use jukebox anymore because they can connect to the YouTube.
Yeah, I don't see any collection so far.
So could it be that you guys they're not paying the license? And if they're not paying the license, then that means you guys are not collecting taxes. Is that right?
We can take a look at it.
Please take a look,
Yeah.
because you show a dash. That tells me that there's money there. It's not, but we don't know. Miss V, do you know if there's money in there? Amusement machine licenses, number 19, attachment A, FY 2027 revised revenue estimate July 1st, 2026. Non-gaming gambling machines, which should include dart machines, billiards, not pachinko. Pachinko's a different category, but you're showing a dash. So that means no one's paid a license? Or no one's due to pay a license? What is that?
This is a report that's generated by the Secretary of Finance office.
all right.
And I think what's important is to figure out what are those non-gambling machines, to determine whether taxes have been received and maybe they're not categorized properly.
Yep.
But I believe that should be the case.
Okay, so here's my question, because you mentioned something about not categorized properly. And we're gonna go to, since we're on licenses and fees. We give licenses by structure, either corporate, LLC, limited liability. What's the other one? They have subsidiaries. You guys have all kinds of stuff. Are you from Revenue and Tax, sir? Or you're from Secretary of Finance office? Okay. So I'm assuming that maybe then, I'd like to see, for the record, if you can, how many corporate licenses were issued? Okay. I'd also like to see how many limited liability corporation licenses were issued. I'd also like to see within that, the two, how many subsidiaries were attached to each of those different types of license, because now I can find out if someone is paying their appropriate tax. Because I can't have a general merchandise store operating as an LLC. And that might be a problem, because then we're issuing licenses under subsidiaries when it should be a standalone so that we can collect. And then now that's going to go back to my question to the border, which is customs, because it should match with you guys, right? At some point. Okay. So this charges for services, Ms. V, number 32, indirect cost reimbursement, gross IDC collections. You're indicating 1.9 million. We spoke about that earlier. And this, again, is a revenue estimate, no? So is this still an estimate? Or is this a hard number?
It is an estimate.
Do you see this going up or down?
So IDC is calculated based on the grant awards that come in, and for particular awards that allow for, IDC to be collected.
Okay.
So there's the 7.5% or 32.5%.
Okay. And so I know that a lot of agencies don't have grant writers. And I'd also like to know what category they fall under on these accepted service and special service or whatever it is that they fall under. But I know that Office of Grants Management is the state clearinghouse for grants. And there's a lot of people out there writing grants. But there's also a lot of people in agencies writing grants that have an accepted service or some kind of NOPA when they should be together with the clearinghouse to best benefit the public. I like to see, and how much of this went to Office of Grants Management? Ms. V, do you know?
We would have to run a report.
Okay.
And Pam, do you have the breakdown?
Thank you, Ms. V.
So for FY 2026, as of July 31st, they received 528,000 of their IDC share.
Okay. Their share. And their share pays what?
That's the 35% of the total IDC.
And
And they have personnel and other operating.
okay. But technically, since they're the one writing the grant, they should be receiving more of that? Right? I don't know. I'm asking you guys. I need to understand because I'm looking at your estimated budget. And every time we come in here and I'm looking at the state clearinghouse, they're not getting their share. And I'd like to know where their share is going. Because I don't think we should be using their share if their share is supposed to be intended for them to continue to do their job. Is that right? Anyway, that's a rhetorical. You don't have to answer that. On the other revenue streams, let me get to the CIQ overtime. At one point, the CIQ overtime, Ms. V, was at least $1 million. Is there a reason why now the estimate has dropped to less than $1 million? Were we paying overtime, or was this one of those things where we were moving money around, or I don't know. I'm just asking.
We can take note of that question. Sorry, we really don't have
Okay.
information regarding to
No problem, and that's another one. Okay. What is this business privilege fee? Because this is also identified under other revenue.
We can get back to you about
Okay.
that.
And this, we had also a discussion on the bounce checks. And I think that was since the 23rd legislature, we were talking with the Treasury, and that there was in the books uncollected fees for bounce checks. Have you guys collected on any of those checks paid to the CNMI Treasury?
We will need to check with our treasurer.
Can you put that also as a indicator, one of the questions? And then you also, here it is, number 38, the miscellaneous revenue. We see a zero there, but on the non-gambling machines, we see the dash. And so that's my problem now, because even on the NPLT transfer in, there's a dash and a dash. And I think on general accounting principles, zero is still a number. So on number 38, miscellaneous revenue, if you guys can please, and I think we asked the Secretary of Finance to produce what is in that particular account, because you're showing zero, but now we know that there's some revenues received that she stated goes into miscellaneous revenue. And I want to see that, because she's saying on the estimate it says zero. But now we know that some places there is an occurrence where they don't know where to put it because either the law is unclear or the adjudicated order from the court is unclear, and so it goes there. All right. Okay. Thank you. I think that's it. I yield my time.
Thank you, Madam Flor. Ms. V, according to the proposed budget from the administration, you guys have allocated only right about 1.8 million for the whole entire central government utilities?
Yes, only to meet the requirements set by, I believe it's the court, on how much we have to at least make available.
Okay, and that is the minimum set by the court?
1.8 million, yes.
Right. But that's not what is actually needed for the whole central government, right? Do you have that figures from all the departments' requests with regards to utilities?
No, I don't, but let me see what I have on my books.
So is it still the same as the current budget that the administration is encouraging all departments to be more kind of creative with whatever grants they have? Try to prioritize if the grants are allowed for utilities, prioritize utilities over other priorities. So that's still what's been encouraged by the administration for all departments.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Chairman, can I add
Yeah,
on
go ahead,
that? Because just to give a rough estimate, so on a monthly basis, we receive the billing from the CUC, so that's amounting to 600,000 a month.
A month, and that's
Yeah.
for the whole entire
Yeah, for the whole
Commonwealth.
entire Commonwealth, yes.
Okay.
And if we're gonna times that with
12.
12 months, that's around 7.2 million.
Okay, so we're short by 5 point some million, right? To make whole, right? And any of the departments been disconnected so far? Are we? Okay,
No.
I think most agencies are on prepaid, so
Okay.
that's the conservative part about it, is
Okay.
that they know how much they have left
okay,
and how much they need to conserve.
so the prepaid is actually working
Working.
as,
Yes.
so when we close doors, that means that it's totally off the grid, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and then the other sources can, whatever other sources they have,
Sure.
like federal, they can cover their shortfall.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that response. Are there any other of the members before we dismiss the folks from SOF and OMB? And as the chair mentioned, if there's the need that we should call them back in, I know that we're still awaiting from all those requests and figures to come our way so that we can analyze those numbers and figures. And then if there's a need, of course, we'll call them back. But right after, if there's no more questions, I still need the members and the Bureau staff to please remain as we will share the draft concurrent resolution, and that we should kind of take a look at it and discuss over it. Hopefully, we can pre-file it by Monday. I know that the speaker is calling a session on Thursday, and if we can have the concurrent resolution pre-filed by Monday so that we can meet that session, so that we can pass that concurrent resolution so that it can hit its way to our counterparts in the Senate as we continue deliberating on the package or the version that we'll be creating here at the House. So with that, the chair would now like to thank you folks from SOF and Ms. V, to you and your team, Jazz. Thank you for answering our call to meet from this morning and continuing to this afternoon. And please, those official requests by this August body, the faster we get it, the sooner we can develop a version on the House before we pass hopefully a more promising budget. I know it's challenging times, but we look forward to kind of crunch all the numbers moving forward. So with that, this meeting will go on a recess before we adjourn and allow our folks from SOF and OMB to be released. Short recess. We are back on our Ways and Means Committee session, and before we went on recess, we had discussed the concurrent resolution. So it is the decision of the body here that we are just going to go ahead and pre-file the concurrent, hoping that we are going to have further discussion with the administration on some items under the concurrent resolution to put more clarity. And we're hoping that both the administration and the Committee on Ways and Means have agreed upon the concern, and that will give us the ability to make further amendments on Thursday's call for session that the Speaker of the House will be calling. So with that, I want to thank the members and the viewing public for your patience as we are continuing to deliberate on fiscal year 2027's budget. And at this time, the chair will now adjourn today's call for Ways and Means. We are now adjourned. Thank you.